Hello. Mehak, please confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Perfect. Thank you. So very warm welcome to all of you who have logged in this Sunday afternoon. I can see other than me, there are already 45 more people. Thank you for taking time out, and let's hope it's worth a while. Before I go ahead, I'm really excited to be here to share with you some basics on PowerPoint presentations. My partner in crime is Mehak Bansal, who's interning with Mitti. So let's get going, guys. Give me a minute. I'm just setting my screen. Okay. So firstly, what do you expect today? What can you expect today from this session? I'm a PowerPoint trainer, but, and in fact, like most of you, I'm a PowerPoint user. Having said that, I've been using PowerPoint for a long time, maybe 20 odd years now. And hence, based on my experiences, not just in making presentations, but also sitting through thousands of presentations, these are a few things that, I feel might do the trick for us. Hence, this is going to be a little bit of concepts that we will go through together and demos. In between the demos and the concepts, there will be polls. So please poll. So please watch out for your screens for that. We will announce it and then Mehak will run the poll for us. Right? This is a screen you've been seeing for a very, very long time now, ever since the program was announced. Having said that, these are the 4 broad areas around which the discussion is going to be structured. It may not be in this order per se, but we will try to cover most of what's mentioned here, right from some tips, like I mentioned, mistakes that I've made, and again, checklists, where we'll, instead of sitting and doing checklists in the interest of time, I will share with you some links that you could, visit and run those checklists for yourselves. And of course, knowing the audience. So here we go. There's a number on the screen. Another thing is regarding Q&As, I'm not currently watching my chat as it gets distracting at times. So what's going to happen, the structure of the discussion is going to be, I will take you through what, I have put together for us. Like I said, when it comes to demos, I will be moving between slideshow to another screen, another slide, another presentation to show you. You don't really need to do the particular task I'm doing because this will be also available on YouTube later. You could use it as a reference or sit back and watch. And we can, question and answers will be at the end of the session. We'll try to take in as many as possible basis what is being covered in the session. However, if there are more questions after that, please feel free to reach out to the Mitti team. Now that's a number on our screens, 500 million or 50 crores, as we would call it here in India. Guess what's that? Quick one, that's the number of PowerPoint users across the globe. PowerPoint started sometime in 1987. Initially, it was called Presenter, and then moved on to be called PowerPoint a little, 3 years post that. Another number on our screens, 350 per second and 30 million per day are the number of presentations that are started globally. So by the time I finish saying this statement and you're finished seeing your screens, maybe already 2,000 presentations have been started across the globe. And that's 1,834 crores. Any guesses? I've not put this as a poll, so this is basically the amount that gets wasted, guys, due to poor PowerPoint presentations. It's not just making the presentations, it's also the time that businesses waste in people giving ineffective presentations, and the time taken to prepare the presentation. So Microsoft did the survey, and this was a shocking result that came out. So let's hope we can save some dimes through this. Mehak, Let's launch the first poll, please. And your question on the screen is, by the end of the masterclass, how many of you agree that you will become a PowerPoint expert by the end of these 60 minutes? We're still watching it. Mehak, is it 30 seconds, our poll? All right. Wow. So let me again disappoint you guys here. This class is not going to make any of us an expert in PowerPoint. It will hopefully give us some inputs. My effort will be to give you some inputs and make you think more about PowerPoint. Experts, I still don't claim to be one. So let's get going and see how we can become a little better, sharpen our skills to some extent. So the first tip that I would like us to think about, and here are some concepts that, like I said, we're going to be talking about before we move into demos, is what Stephen Covey said once, one of the habits. Begin with the end in mind. And these are the 4 things. When you typically, what happens, and I've done this many times, I'm asked to make a presentation, and the first thing I do is open PowerPoint and start typing, punching what image I should put, what should be the color, what should be the font, etc. There are a lot of times we forget why are we doing what we're doing. So getting our objectives sorted is, I think, the first thing before we move into action mode. Secondly, understanding our audience. I will talk about the audience for a minute, in a minute's time. Once we get this sorted, once we have, whether this is written in a PowerPoint itself or clarity, is when we actually figure out, or we need to then move on to, how do we achieve this? How do we achieve our objectives? What is it that we need to do so that the audience is there? And then the last one, but the most important, because PowerPoint is a great visual tool, what should be the design be? How should the design elements be? So please, let's think about that for a minute. Coming to knowing our audience, a few basics, very basics questions that we need to ask ourselves, and we will talk about it a little later as well, is who is our audience? Why are they interested in this presentation? What is it that they want to achieve? What are their expectations? So expectations, what is the knowledge? What is an experience that they bring? And do they have any particular mindset when they are sitting for a presentation? For example, right now, it's a Sunday afternoon, or some of you might have signed up for this, but there's something else that's come up and still you've logged in for this. So your mind might be right now preoccupied with some other stuff. Or there are those of you who really wanted to learn to become an expert in 60 seconds. And then you are like, oh my God, I'm not going to become an expert. So you are a bit disillusioned. Hopefully there are some of you who are saying, okay, let's figure out. And there's some of you who might be, okay, let's see where this is going. What's happening here? So it could be mixed. It could be a complete mixed crowd. It could be a homogeneous crowd. But yes, it's not necessary. I'm repeating that we have all these answers. As many as we have will help us make our presentations more effective and impactful. Another thing I have not thought about usually and gone into action mode is this. A PowerPoint, unlike an amoeba, should have a structure. And when we're planning it, there is a certain science behind it. Just in terms of introduction, there has to be a structure to it, where you can think about what the introduction is, and there are certain tips that you see on your screen. An introduction could be a quotation, could be a story. It depends on your strengths and what is it, the message that you want people to land. It could be a shocking statistics like what we saw in the beginning. I don't know how many of us knew that. So there could be different ways, but please spend some time in building the concept. It's also getting your audience hooked to your presentation. It's critical. Otherwise, you've already lost them if your introduction is weak. Then, of course, there are, we've read enough and I will not dwell into it. There are lots of us who think logically, who think emotionally, and at times, one of these sides, and of course it's a combination. So have content which is attractive, understandable for all kinds of audience, all kinds of people sitting there. And conclusion, while this is, a no big shake, a mistake that I've seen often being committed is in the conclusion, we bring in new elements, which is a complete no. Conclusion is summary of what we've already talked about. And hence, please do not bring in new stuff. Typically 5 to 10% of your total presentation time, if you're looking at some, benchmarks, is what the conclusion should take care of. You should provision for that. Summary and crisp, no new stuff. Now let's move to a little bit of, adding a little bit of creativity in our presentations and in terms of design. And colors, of course, no two shakes about it, play a very, very important role. Whether it is coloring your images, color of the images that are used, color of the text, or the color of the graphics that are being used. When I say graphics, I'm talking about the boxes, the different shapes that you see. Here, what I'd like to do is I will switch to a design mode and talk a little bit about it. So for example, what you see here is an image which is really visually colorful. The text is readable. However, there are multiple ways that you could change this around. How do you change the color? Simplest one, which we've used many times, I'm assuming here, is the themes. So let's just go. I'm switching out of this to a presentation. Here. So let's look at the screen. Let's look at, I'm now not in a slideshow mode. For those of you watching it, this is a design mode of the presentation. So before I even continue talking about changing this particular slide, I am talking about the different modes right now here. So from a slideshow mode, I have come to a design mode. Now coming to the text, like I mentioned, the text that I mentioned, the images here, the image that you see, for example, in the slideshow, do you see that there is a slight effect around it? That has been created on purpose. How do you do that? A demo of that. The first thing that we need to do with any object, each of these is an object on a screen. The first thing that we need to do with any of these objects is to select, obviously. And in case of applying effects with images, once you've selected it, go to format, select format. And format is the miracle area of your menu, which helps you in the design element. Now, since we're working on an image, see here, I could have put a border to this image and chosen colors. A border could be something like this. What I have done, in fact, is chosen an effect for the image. I'm going to show you there are multiple ways of doing changing effects or applying effects. Here, these are the different kinds of ways we can, play around with. The effect that I have chosen in a lot of images that you'll see in this deck is called soft edges. So which has, just a sec. Just give me a sec, there's an issue with the battery. Yeah, there. Here. That's the effect that I have tried to use. You can choose the degree of impact that you want. And there you go. Now coming to colors. The simplest way, again, to change colors is to obviously select, go to the particular option and choose. Okay. Now here, if I need to fill a simple color, I think I'm assuming there are PowerPoint users who have logged in for the session. So select and choose a color of your choice. However, sometimes, what is recommended from a design point of view is stick to a consistent theme. So if there is a color that you would like to stick to in your presentation, how can you do that? Couple of ways. I would like to copy this color. People, just give me a minute. I'm using the mouse here, which is just giving me a little bit of a problem. Okay, yeah. So, sorry, yeah. So here, in terms of, I need to fill this color. I need to fill a particular color. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I love this blue color that has been used, and I would like to use this in my images, this particular color. Now, that's what we need to do for that is choose an eyedropper. Select in that, I'm going to go a little slow in this. So select the eyedropper. So I've selected the particular object, gone to shape fill, so whatever color, and there do you see eyedropper option? So when you click on an eyedropper option, now you can choose any color of any. Sometimes we wonder how come this particular color is same as that. This is how it is. The minute I click there, the color changes. So that's a powerful tool like an eyedropper, which I would like you to practice at length, and you could use it. So for example, I want to go again. So select shape fill, eyedropper, and choose the color there that you want. Right. Now coming to themes, standard, basic, I will quickly take us through that as well. Design. And this is a standard Microsoft built, PowerPoint built themes you could apply. You could also, in case you don't want to get into too much of designing, at your end, these are themes that are there on the Office gallery, as well as there are themes that you could, of course, download online. In this case, I have chosen to create my own backdrop, and we'll for now just stick to that. Coming to the third option, which is the color contrast. So obviously, as you can see here, this was done on purpose. It's not really a great color contrast. What is it that you can do is one is experiment of basic rule, light on dark, dark on light. If your slides, that's a standard basic rule we all follow when we are making presentations. Having said that, in case you would like some more additional help where you want to really figure out if this color combination is great, there are online tools like the color contrast. What we will need to know is all colors are made up of red, green, and blue. So that's your basic colors. It's called the RGB code. So what we will need to do I will show this, is if I click on this, and I go to, again, format, shape, and I just go to the more fill colors, it shows me format, shape, and fill colors. It shows me what is the RGB code of my particular color that has been used here. Again, playing around with this and clicking OK will change the color straight away. If you know which family you want to. If you want to still further check out what combinations work well, you will need to know the RGB colors of the colors that you're checking. So for example, the color I've just made is the RGB red, green, 2 quotient is 255, 215, and 87 in this case. So how do I go and check out the color contrast? Is click on the color contrast. I will share. So for those of you interested in this particular link, we will be sharing with you at the end of the workshop. There are certain tools, like I mentioned, I'll share with you at the end. So here it is. The background colors by default have been punched in. So we said, okay, our color codes were what? Go back. I'm sorry, I've forgotten what the color codes were. 255, 215, 87 were our color codes. So we go and punch that in. 255, 215, and 87. There, that's the color we had. Now we want to see whether a particular font will look good on it. Either just type out a particular font, or if you really know the fonts are going well and you want the calculator to tell you if it will look good or not, just go standard font change colors. Made this red color. Again, the RGB for any color you want to know is always go to more colors, custom RGB. Since this is purely red, it's 255. The other elements are not there. So go back here, 255, 0, 0. And the minute you do that, it's come. It says, it actually calculates and tells you, this particular calculator, whether this is great or not. So here I'm saying the test is passed, and this here, the color difference test. So there are two tests. One is brightness. The other is whether the color difference, how clear it will be for maybe when you're viewing it at a distance. And here it's failed. And then it gives you suggestions. So this is, you could spend many hours checking this out and experimenting. Like I said, I will surely share the link with you. So this is another tool that helps. Coming back to our presentation. Another big thing is do not use too many colors on one particular slide or in a presentation. Stick to a particular theme and don't confuse. Moving to key elements like fonts, ignored usually, I must say that, but critical. And here, two tips that I'd like us to consider. One is same set of fonts that we need to use. So for example, in this particular presentation, I have used Open Sans throughout, and in very few places for impact, I might have used one other font. So do not have too many font types, or as if say font faces. Make sure the size. Now, what is an ideal size? There is another rule that will come up. Let me mention it right away here again. The typical size that works in a presentation is font size 30 and above. So if you are in a space where you are reducing the size of your font, that means you have too much material on that particular slide. So instead of reducing the font size, it's time to really go back to the drawing table where you had planned your presentation and check what is it that can be reduced, and don't reduce the size. That's in most cases. However, again, these are certain guidelines. If, for example, I'm writing the source of an image or I'm giving some attribution, that need not be the font size of 30. Spacing between the font, again, can be a very impactful way, or it can really kill your presentation. I'll show you some tricks on that. And here, there are two broad categories. So this is the third point that I would like us to remember for this. When it comes to fonts, there are broadly two types that we're looking at. One is serif, which you notice is the curvy font, curvy font. Here, not really curvy, but there is some decorative element. And however, the sans serif font is considered easier to read, typically used in presentations. Serif is usually used when we're writing documents. Sometimes it's okay to use a combination of the two. However, do not have too many variations between. Headers, 99.9% of the cases go for sans serif. Coming back to fonts. Now, standard by default, there is, when I say font spacing, is the spacing between each alphabet here, each letter in your content, in your text box. So if when I'm selecting the text box, I'm going to go to the area here in the ribbon, which is about font spacing, the AV, adjust the spacing, character spacing. Now, the minute I do this here, there is hardly any gap. Like I said, sometimes for impact, if you want to really, really loosen it, there it is. So you can change the basis your requirement. You can play around with font spacing, helps. I'm just doing undo, Control Z for that. Okay. Font case, I will again take us through it. This is across all MS Office applications, but let's spend a minute on this. So font case is typically right here. I have the text in a particular case. I want to change it. Sentence case, as the word suggests, will tell you what. So if I need to convert all the text in lowercase, there it goes. And so on and so forth. A typical use of this is we accidentally have the caps lock on and we start typing. So instead of, here, let me just do that. So I have the caps lock on, and instead of the wrong words get typed. So here, so in this case, if you want to change it, helps to use your cases. Yeah. Moving on from visual colors to going back to our presentation. The fifth tip is content is, of course, they say content is the king. Too much content, I already said, could really kill it. We've heard words like death by PPT. Let's not do that. So if your headline is talking about, whatever the headline is talking about, make sure the content flows in that manner. Visuals should always be able to help what we are saying and not distract the audience. So that's the piece on content. All right, time for our second poll. Mehek, could you please launch that? The question there on your screen says, I know how to access the slide master to set the overall look of my slides. Options. It's closing the poll, so please wake up and answer. All right, interesting. So thank you for sharing this. It will help me tell you what the slide master is. So majority of us is in the second and the third category. Let's talk about slide masters. A very powerful tool. Now, what you see here on my screen is a typical view. So I'm going to go to view here, and what PowerPoint starts, we see the normal view, wherein you have presentations on one side as small boxes, and hence in this case, the presentation itself is an object. The one presentation that the slide that you click on is visible here. Notes that you want to write for your slide, for each of the slide. Like I said, the words, it cannot be, everything should not be on the slide. So what you want to write there for your reference or for your audience later as handouts as well could be in the notes page. What a slide master is actually helps you control the flow. To go to a slide master is click on view and click on slide master. Sorry, slide sorter. Just give me a minute. Click on view and click on slide sorter. Now here, if you notice, you will see all the slides in one screen. Now in this case, can I edit the image, make the colors, font, etc.? No, I can't make those changes in the slide, in this view, in the slide master view. In the slide sorter view, what I can do is I can play around with the sequence of my slides. How does this help me? It helps us in getting the flow of our presentation sorted. So once you have prepared, you have multiple slides lying together. For example, I'll go to our presentation that we were talking about. Let's go to view. Let's go to slide sorter. There. You see, all the slides that are there are visible in one screenshot to us. And that helps us now, supposing, so was this the way it is, what you see today? No, when I was preparing, this was a great tool that helped me, because all you need to do to move the slides is drag them there. You could do it also in normal view by moving the slides in this particular manner. The difference is, let me just Control Z it. Yeah. The difference being here you see a bigger version, you zoom and you can see it more clearly. Your entire slide presentation is there for you. Yeah. Another use of this is it helps you in hiding a particular slide. Let's say during the presentation, you want a slide, but you don't want it to be shown when you're in the slide show. So when you're in the slideshow where you're presenting, you don't want the presentation to be shown. In that case, all you need to do is in your slide sorter view, right click and say hide slide. Another option, duplicate. So these are a couple of options that really help. And slide sorter is a great tool. For those of us who have not tried it out, would recommend surely trying it out. So that's a recap of what we talked about as in slide sorter. Right information, but wrong sequence, slide sorter is the way. The next tip I'd like us to consider is it's really not about us. And we think about what is it that I want to say in these many minutes. It's about what is it that the audience actually wants from us. And again, it comes back to our preparation for the presentation. So think hard about, what is it that you want your audience to think about, to know, to get out of those minutes and those slides that you're investing in. And the term there, WIFM, common one, what is in it for me? Right now, a lot of you are wondering what is in it for me for sitting through this particular session. So the attempt is not just for the presentation, for every slide, try to think about what is it that the audience should get out of this slide. So reverse engineering, please. Now, this is a common question that PowerPoint designers are asked. What is the magic number in terms of how many slides in a presentation? We wonder this, how many bullets and how many words there are. There is enough. If you Google search, there are so many rules, these many bullets in a slide and many words per bullet, etc. But is there a magic number is the $1 million question here. And for all those of us who have wondered, what is the magic number? Try to debunk that thought. There is truly, in my experience, there's no one size that fits all, for the simple reason it depends on the audience. What is it that you want to communicate mainly? You could use one image and talk for 5 minutes and the audience gets it. Or you could have 10 images and talk for the same amount of time and still the message is received. However, there is a guideline. I don't call this a rule, but this is Guy Kawasaki, who is behind Canva, for those people who've heard of the design software Canva. He says the simplest guiding principle that you can think about when you're making a presentation is 10, 20, 30, 10 slides. Don't plan to talk more than 20 minutes. And the font we already talked about, 30-point font at least to be used. Now, why are we saying so? Please do not get out of this workshop thinking that all that you've been doing should be fitted in 10 slides. No. The reason for saying 10 is make sure you only put in your presentation what has to go. Do not have too much extra information on your presentation. And that's the reason for 10. So as less as possible is my suggestion here to you. So 10, 20, 30 rule. Quick poll again. This is a question that, again, we wonder. So the poll question is, how many, on an average, when we analyze presentations, on an average, people use how many words per slide? The options are 10, 30, 40, 50. That's a quick one. Great, guys. I can see a lot of responses floating in. So far, 30 seconds. Okay, another 5 seconds. Then Mehak will close the poll. All right. Okay. Well, the majority says there are 30 words. And I'm sure when you say that, you realize that itself is a lot. Having said that, actually the research says this. People use 40 words on an average. I'm not saying that's the exact number, it's an average. So take a step back, cut it down to as less as possible. Just to reiterate what we saw in the poll is, No, we don't need so many. We don't really need so many options. Less is more. The simple principle of KISS works here as well. Keep it simple, stupid, silly, whatever you want to say, and short. I wondered whether I should include it or not, and so that it's not really a gyan session. Having said that, most critical is edit. It's really whether you're presenting in college, or you're presenting a sales presentation, or you're just emailing the presentation. Spell checks are totally not on. Test run, how do you spell check? We will see it. Test run, slideshow, and run it. And if possible, if you can, please find some well-wisher there and do a mock audience trial. It'll also help you test not only the presentation, but your system settings. So there we go. For those of us who would like to have a quick look at the different views that are there, we already talked about the normal view, which is the current one that you're seeing on my slide. When you are doing a test run, you would obviously go to a slideshow and play your slideshow. There are other ways to set your presentation in that, for this particular workshop, I will not be getting into setting up a presentation, recording narrations, etc. But once, you are at an advanced stage, you can surely do that. Going to slideshow is either from slideshow option, run from wherever you would like to, or here you can set up your custom show option. Slideshow can obviously be available. It's available here as well. Coming to spell checks, though we know it, quickly showing, go to review option at the top, and there is your spell check. Yeah, so this is somewhere down. I found a spello, and of course change it. There's a spell check critical for us. Come back to where we were. Now, give me a moment. Let me just come to, okay, so I will cover the 5 common mistakes, and there are certain design elements I would like to spend some more time on it. After that, we will discuss those as well. So this is basis the experience that I have had in seeing mistakes on slides. By the end of this particular slide, I would like you to, take a moment and think how you found this particular slide compared to all the other slides that you have been, seeing so far. There you go. So this is again findings from the 2019 most annoying PowerPoint survey. One of the most irritating things is the size of the text. We talked about it, 30-point font, and the survey validates it. So let's pledge that we shouldn't have font size too tiny for audience to read. The second common mistake is having an entire statement on the slide. Another common mistake is having full sentences on slides. This should have been a crisper statement, but has been left there for us to get to thing. It's a PPT, it's a presentation. Shorten as much. Whatever you need can come elsewhere, and we'll talk about it in a moment. The third mistake is the white space. So white space is basically any area that is left blank around the object. So it's not necessarily white in color. So if we go up to our previous slide, all that you see here is, of course, the white space, not because it's white in color, it's also called negative space, but it's also the space between. So for example, when you come here, the white space is the space between the text box here and the image starting. The white space is also between objects. So in between each of these, the line, the space that you see is white space. So we have to figure out, I will also show you. Yeah, so here. So important to use space. White space is critical for us to have an impact, have the slide make the right impact on the audience. What can you do is, again, think about your design. For example, here, what's happening is I'm going to get some white space for these two boxes to give a demo of it. So here what you see is boxes that are there, right? Text boxes, rectangles, whatever you'd like to call it, objects. Now, the minute I introduce the space, again, what I had done intentionally was not kept a space between this particular box. So the readability surely goes for a toss. As you know, this particular slide has too much text on it. So the space here, what's happening, aligned, is all left aligned. Even if it is left aligned, there is no gap at all. And how can you get that out for you is click on the box. Go to format. All right, right? Format, text box. There, let's close the spellings. And here, any object, I repeat, I'm showing this as an example, but any object that you want to format, you need to right click and you can go straight away to format and that particular object. Now, what are we formatting? We want the white space to be increased, or the space to be increased in terms of left aligned. So there are multiple options here. Go to text options. By default, it's not like this. When you make a text box, it's much more than 0. So I had put this on intentional. All we need to do is add a white space. I'm saying 0.2 on my left margin, 0.2 right. Let's say top is 0.4. There, you see it moving. And bottom is, of course, that's again 0.4. And there is an overflow in this case because there's too much text. But the whole idea is to get the white space for each of these objects sorted. And at times, it's not necessary you need to do this yourself. It's already there is when you make a text box or you insert a shape. So if I say insert, and I say text box, and I draw the text box out, you will see that there is, by default, there are margins that are set. And they are set for surely this very reason, that white space is left taken care of. But I've seen presentations where people have played around with in the earnestness to get more stuff on the slides. Don't do that. If possible, increase the white space in your presentations. Yeah. So coming back to our slideshow. The fourth mistake here is sharing the reference material upfront. So we said that we don't want everything on the slide. So obviously we will need to be prepared and have material if somebody asks, for us, or even after the work, even after the program that we need to hand it over, or after the training, whatever is the agenda of your presentation. Put all that reference material available, mention it, but do not hand it over during the session. Simple, it distracts not only the audience, it will distract you, because people will lose interest in what you're talking about and they will start reading what you have given or referring what you have given. Please do not have it handy. Do not hand it over in between the session, at the end of the session, always. This is my favorite. Overboard with too much of graphics, transitions, animations. We'll talk about what that is and the power of using them correctly is a mistake worth avoiding. Otherwise, this is what happens. This is what you see sometimes on presentations, a clip art that is just either taken from MS Office or put up on an online search. And to make matters worse, there are lots of effects. Instead of adding value to what you're saying, it's again at times distracting. So be very, very judicious when you're using animations, or we'll talk about them now. Another point that I'd like us to remember is the quality of the images. So sometimes we have an image and we start cropping it and we stretch it. It spoils the entire resolution of the image. Let's not do that. When I say what I mean by having an image and cropping it is what I'm going to show you. So let's take this image. I'm copying this image, going back to our presentation. Now, before I do that, if you noticed, automatically the minute I pressed enter, the slide had a particular structure. For those of us who know it, it's great. For some of us who wonder how this came, by default as this was set. So this was set in the layout. You can change how your slide structure should be. It's basically containers of what you're going to do in the slide. And hence it's important to know in advance what you want to put in the slide. So to be able to change the structure, what you need to do is go again to your home tab, layout, and these are all the standard layouts. We can have many more layouts. Let's pick up the standard header and bullet text. The most commonly used, one of the most commonly used layouts is a title text and text here for your points or bullets. So again, repeat layout, and you can choose the layout. If you need to change the layout of the slide, you can also do the same. So there's slide here, which was the layout that I was using. To text, again, you can go here and change the layout. Alignments will go for a toss. So ideally, this is the reason for showing you. To avoid this, first have the layout. First get the glass, then fill the water, not the other way around. So that's where we are with layouts. We were talking about images, animations, etc. So, and how we can use them effectively. Now let's say I've got this image which I copied from the other slide. Now, one is I stretch this image. Luckily, this image is actually a good quality image, and in stretching, even if I do a slideshow, the quality of the image is not really bad. A lot of times we do not have that luxury of having a good quality image, and when we stretch it, it really, 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 makes, just give me a minute. Let's say this was an image that's there. One is this image has many points. The more I stretch it, the more it will get distorted. Let's say what I want is a part of this image and not the entire image. And that is where your cropping comes to help. How do you crop? Click on the image that you'd like to crop. Select the crop option there and crop. This we've done many times. So here I am cropping the image so this part will not be visible. So when you move the handles around the image or the wire mesh, it's called, the part in gray does not become a part of the image. I click crop, it's gone from here. Similarly, let's say I just wanted this particular data point that we had. So I'm going to further crop and bring it down. What if I wanted to get only this? So I will need to crop the image. I am trying to bring the image on one screen, so it's easier for us to crop it there. And I'm going to say crop bottom there. And I say crop. So what I've done is from that entire infographic, this image, we have got a teeny weeny part of it. And in all our honestness, what we do is usually I want this on my screen. I will blow it up on the screen like this during the presentation. However, when you're making the presentation, it might still look okay on that one slide. At times we are guilty of doing this. Never resize the images like this. It loses the complete quality. And when you go in slideshow mode, it can totally be a killer. Another observation, another piece of advice here is, if you're cropping an image that is high quality, this was an image and you can be converted it into a slightly low quality image. What if you're cropping an image that is high quality? Let's pick up this image. This is a high quality image. I'm going to copy this image. Now, what happens is I go back to format, crop, and the handles come around the image. You notice the effect is right now gone. and I crop the image slightly here, let's say, crop it. And I'm glad, let's say I like whatever the outcome is, I'm glad that my image has been cropped. Having said that, if you have a presentation with many high quality images, you have a presentation with many high quality images, what happens is the size of your presentation increases because of the quality of the images that you have used, high-res images. A contributor to that is you have cropped the image does not mean this is what the image is left with. The other elements, if you look at crop, are still very much a part of the image. So if you want to not have your file size increase, what you could do is after you have cropped the image, right click the image and say save as picture. The minute you say save as picture, that image will be saved separately and you could use it. The file size will be much smaller and then refer the image. So if you're cropping high-res images, save them as pictures, save them as images separately instead of just leaving it at a crop. Cropping, you could do multiple shapes. You could also have the image cropped in multiple shapes, which is crop to shape. And once you turn the crop on, crop to shape, and there you could have different kinds of shapes. Playing around there can get you multiple shapes there. Crop, I repeat, crop to shape. Now here, for example, when I was doing the presentation, you must have noticed the serif and the sans serif part in the presentation was written one below the other. And that's another use of cropping that I'd like you to, pay attention to is in this case, what's happening is in my presentation, here, when we were on this particular slide, there are two separate objects, two separate images. They were cropped out of this image. And this is again a very great use of cropping. How do I go about it? What I did, I'm going to show you, is I select the image, crop, choose crop option, and crop the image. I did not, and again, hit the crop. So I got the serif part of it. Now let's say I want the sans serif part of the image as well. So I will need to, what I'm doing is copying the image in two places because I want two versions. Right, again, click, format, crop, there you go, crop. Similarly here, crop, and we would like to have the serif part. Yeah, and you could place it in any particular manner. So that's on cropping. You could change the color of, there are multiple options in changing the colors, restrictions apply, but still, let's see how we could add some more colors to our images. Select the image. These are the three. This is the miracle area that you need to look at in terms of colors. Again, it depends on which version. I must here put a disclaimer. It also depends on which version that you're using of PowerPoint. And here, helps because if the theme of my presentation is a color tone, you could use the color option to get your images have a consistent look and feel. So how do I do it? Repeat, select the image, go to format, go to color, and choose the color of your choice. There are artistic effects that if you'd like to do. I do not advise it for this particular kind of image. However, if you'd like to give some artistic effects to an image like this, select the image, go to artistic effects here, option, and see what all you could do with the image. This is there. Multiple options. I have just chosen one of my favorite ones where I turn it into a negative. Yeah. Now coming to smart art. That a lot of us have been using, and they use smart art. No two ways about it. Very effective. When let's say I have the text here, instead of actually sitting and I'd like to put this in 4 different boxes, 4 different rectangles. I'd like to present it differently instead of putting a long bulleted list. Smart art is a great way to go about doing it. One way of doing it, you could have smart art start from scratch, start smart art from scratch, which is, you know, go to insert and smart art. Choose the smart art that you'd like. Let's choose the simplest of the lot here and say, okay. And then either start typing. The minute you start typing directly here, the text automatically fills and it comes down. However, to have more functionalities or to check out more functionalities, click on the small little arrow here. And this is where you have all the, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 text boxes. Hence you have 5 bullet points. So each of this, each bullet point gets converted into a text box for us. Okay, what I have done a lot of times is not really created smart art from scratch, but I have a bulleted list which was done during the design and the planning stage. I want to convert it into a smart art. That's effective use of it is, again, select the object, select the bulleted list, click on convert to smart art, and choose the smart art that you'd like to. PowerPoint gives you suggestions as in what PowerPoint recommends will work for the particular list. Having said that, if you are not comfortable, so let's say we choose this, but this is not really a great representation of what we wanted. So click on layouts for smart arts, and there is the same screen that we had right in the beginning of, choosing within each of it. So if it's a list, if it's a list that you want, choose this. If it's a process, let's say that you're talking about, select, click OK. Now, in this case, do you notice that under this is obviously slightly, I'm going to zoom this there. Yeah, so it's clearer for us. Now, changing colors. Format, like I mentioned, is the go-to place for changing colors. Fill colors, the standard color palette, depending on your particular theme, is already there. However, if you would like to choose different colors, we've spoken about more fill colors. Choose this here. The color is on the object. If I need to select, change the color of the boxes, I need to accordingly select and fill the color that I'd like to fill. So that's on smart art, multiple options. Text, animations, now coming to animations as well as transitions. In case of, first of all, fundamentally the difference between the two. Transition is when you're looking at the slide as an object. So moving from one slide to the another slide, we use transitions. And when the option right at the top in your menu bar is called transitions, like it's there, different kinds of transitions that you could choose. So let's say I've selected this particular slide and I want a transition. So click on transition. PowerPoint now categorizes it into the different kinds that are possible. So if you want subtle, which we said recommended when you're doing presentations. So subtle to exciting, again, completely depends. For example, if you're using PowerPoint to make a movie, then you may want to not really use a subtle transition when you're moving from one frame of the movie to the other frame, but actually use, let's say, something like a curtains falling kind of an impact. And then it's really okay to choose the transition depending again on the requirement. So there, let's say we choose the push transition. So this is when your slide moves to the other slide, how the effect is. I have right now only selected this particular slide, and hence the effect has been applied only on the slide selected. You could straight away click on a miracle button called apply to all, and the effect will be applied to all the slides. How do you know that particular effect is applied? Is if you look in the view here in your left pane, you can see a star, which was not there before we started. Only this particular slide had a star because there was. So again, I repeat, transitions, select the slides that you want. The transitions I've selected the slide, let's say the first 3 slides, select the effect, and let's say we choose curtains in this case. And there you have the curtains drawing up. So this is moving from one slide to the other. How do you test how it looks? Is again, go back to the slideshow. There. Can we change the speed of the curtains? Yes, for sure. Can we change whether, this one slide should flow in another automatically instead of clicking with the mouse? Yes, I will show you that next how to do. So coming back to the effects here, by default for the particular transition, these are the default effects that you see. However, if we need to change it, select the duration that you would like to. For example, that was too slow. So let's say I would like the length of my transition to be only 2 seconds. And apply there. See, moves much faster. So again, completely depends on how you would like to pace it. Similarly, applying to all, well, we've already talked about it. Moving the slides. So if right now I clicked, I've used the on mouse click. However, you'd like to change it and you're presenting it there, you would want it to move automatically. You could select, could remove this option and say after and choose how many seconds would you like your effect to move to the next slide by these many number of effects. If you want to keep both the options on, you could select both in this case. Yeah, so that's on transition from one slide to the other. I am not showing each multiple transitions, but I would request you to practice and check this out if you haven't already been using them. Coming to animations. Just like transitions work on slide as an object on the particular slide, animations is for each and every object on your slide. So you can animate each and every object on your slide. I will go back to the other presentation to show you an example of it. So for example, let's take this slide. Here, our 5 common mistakes slide. Now here, this is one slide where I did use some level of animations. So come to the animations tab right at the top. Now, nothing is working, nothing is on here for the simple reason it's disabled is I have not selected any object. So to select the object, the minute you select the object, magic starts. Now here, if you notice, just a second. Typically, your PowerPoint screen will look like this. Even if you select, you'll see some options right at the top under animations. You could choose the kind of animation you want for each and every object on your slide. Let's say I've selected the 5 common mistakes, the title text, and I want an animation effect on it. Just like transitions, there are different categories. What is it that you would want to do when the object appears on the screen? That's on the entrance. If there is something you'd like to highlight or pay emphasis on, and is it when you want the object to exit the screen? It's not necessary to choose all these. Judiciously choose which one you need. So let's say for this particular one, where 5 comments, I would like to choose an option called fade, and it shows. Now it came in and went off, obviously really super fast. And there are multiple, what we should do is check out the animation pane. That has the entire sequence of all the objects that you are animating. This is actually the play area. The animation pane is a critical play area, a working area for your for doing animations for any any particular object. Not only doing the animation or applying the animation, as I would like to say, but on what can you do. So here, let's spend some few minutes on that particular element. Now I've selected this text here and I have wanted it to come in a particular order. So here, what I've done is select appear is the animation that's there. And on the pane is also a preview of what is happening. You'll see the sequence as well on each of these. Supposing what I wanted to do, to come back here, is on this slide. Now, if you notice, I have just now done an animation on the title slide, on the title text, but it has not come in. For the simple reason, the animation appears in the sequence in which you do the animation. So right now, that animation was done last. It'll appear last. Can we change the sequence of it? Yes. So after all this is over, the heading comes. Now, how do I go about changing this? It's the title. See the number here, it says 8. That's the number of the object on my sequence. Sequence 8 is where this text box actually is coming in. So all I need to do to change the animation sequence is play up, take it up, move it up, select, and move it up there. 8 keeps going up. Now 8 is 5. There. So right now this becomes your 1. You can play it and check it out right there. First comes there, or you can do a slide. So that's one thing about sequencing. Secondly, the speed at which you would like a particular, let's only pick this up for the interest of learning. So for the speed, let's select the object, come here on how fast or how slow we want it. So duration here. Or select the object, since object is selected here, click on this drop down, and this is all the options together that you'll want. Click on effect options. That is one button. I repeat, click on the down arrow, click on effect options. That takes care of most of the options that you'd like to use if you're animating. Yeah, so whether you would like to have a sound avoidable unless you really, really need it. Timings. So would you want the particular object, the text box, image, whatever, to come on your slide at the click of a mouse or automatically? You can choose with previous or after previous object. And if there is a delay, you don't want everything to be coming together. So these are those options. Again, check this out at, when you're practicing animations. Put sequence really helps. I'll give you one more example of animations where we used it here is on the quotation. Here. So for example, where I've used it in this particular slide is we wanted right now we asked a question here in this particular slide is what's the magic number, if you remember. And we said, okay, we wanted the audience to not know that there's a quote coming in. So what we did is I said here that, okay, when I played this particular slide, it opened up and on click, the sequence. So the sequence was done that one size fits all comes first and then the quote comes. Now, we wanted to draw the audience's attention to the rule. So in this case is where your animation, etc., really helps out is there. How did I go about doing this? Is selected, selected a text box here, insert, a shape. These are all the shapes whose combination you'll find in SmartArt, most of them, especially do the shape out. As I'm showing this, there are some other tricks that you will be seeing here. When I'm drawing the shape out, I'm also, if you notice, the fill. There it's filled and you cannot read what's there. So we do not want anything to be filled here. So shape fill, no fill. However, the line is really not impactful. So what we'd like to do is, okay. What we'd like to do is, I'm going to give me a minute, work on this separately and then introduce it and talk about movement of objects as well. So here, format, I'd like the line to be thicker and maybe a different color. So let's say I've been using blue a lot. So let's say we choose blue this time. Shape outline, weight, and make it thicker there. And that's where your line is placed. Now, at times, what you were seeing is we were struggling between placing this on top because the image was bigger and was coming. And that's another tip there for all of us is, can you decide what object is front or, most right in front of your screen? Surely you can. So for that, all you need to do is select the object. I would like this object to be in front because I'm using it and I'm working on this, and say, bring to front. Select the object. We are again in the format. We are again in the format option. Select the object that you'd like to and go to format and say bring to front. Conversely, select the object you'd like to send at the back and say send to back. These are a couple of things when you're playing around with adjustments. Right. Moving on to our draft slides. We talked about transitions, and we talked about, yes, another important element that I'd like to leave with you guys with is, if you notice, and we say that for example, if you're presenting, the logo should be on all the slides. There are lots of times what we actually do is we sit, and this could be logo, or it could be an image, it could be any object that you would like to have at a particular fixed space on every slide of your presentation. So one way of doing it is go to every slide, copy paste. Smarter way for us to do this, which PowerPoint gives us, is go to view and go to slide master. This is what I was referring accidentally when I was talking about slide sorter, but slide master is what you need to go to if you're inserting a particular object on every slide there. Yeah, so if you notice, for example, the logo here of SetuWorks is there on all the slides because it has been placed in the slide master. This gives you the functionality. Supposing it's not just about placing an object, I want a particular look and feel for every slide. What I could do is select that particular object. So let's say all the text boxes, if I've used this format, if I've used this layout, all the text boxes should have the font in a particular manner. So Open Sans it is. Let's say we change it to some other font type, change the color, and there. Okay. Go back to view, slide master. Sorry. And close master. So wherever you've used that particular layout, it will be visible on across your slides. Another thing I'd like you to pay attention to is, if you have put an object, sometimes you have a slide and you keep clicking on an object, but you are not able to select it. That's the reason is it's an image, or it has been actually fixed in the slide master view, and that's why you're not able to select it. The minute I change it in the slide master view, it will surely move. So if I go here to view, slide master, and move around the logo here. So the logo is not on all the slides there, so that's the reason I don't see it. Let me just place it here. Let's say I move the logo and I close it there. You'll see there, we made a wash out of it by having the logo there. Can I unselect it? Yes, surely, by going to the slide master. And when you need to get out of slide master, close master view there. So that's if you want consistent information at image, object, whatever you need, or a particular format for each and every slide of that layout. I am again repeating, of that particular layout. Then you could go to the slide master. Yeah, so we are almost at the fag end of this. I am going to be opening this up for questions that you could mention or put up in the chat. Before that, let's move to the last part, which is about checklists. All right. Here, so what we're going to do is I'm going to be sharing with you three kind of tests or assessments that you could take to be able to rate your own skills on PowerPoint and figure out. So the checklist one is rating your own PowerPoint skills. Once we click on that, it will take you to, there are many checklists available. These are few which, you know, we've been using for a while, and they are quite bang on, and that's the reason for recommending this here. Understanding your impact and how good you are. This is by Mind Tools. We will be sharing this link with you. And here you have 14 questions which you could answer. And the best part about this is not just the score that you get at the end of it, is actually the interpretation. It actually tells you which questions are for what kind of skill, and gives you insights on what is it that you could do better in terms of your own skills. That's one assessment. The other is the skills inventory, which is quite an exhaustive one by Think Outside the Slide. Here, what you have to do for this particular assessment, self-assessment, is it has categories, as in terms of design, your slide, the text on the slides, graphs, which we did not cover today, but should surely do. Look at this particular option, images, etc. And then again, at the end, you get results under each of these. So that's the second assessment that you could check out. And the third is, what are the best practices for each of this and your understanding of it, basically, again, by Think Outside the Slides. I'll be sharing this link soon after the workshop. Yeah, so these are the three options I'd like you to consider when you are looking at how can you make an effective PowerPoint presentation. And in conclusion, all I can say is that 60 minutes and it's almost 80 minutes of it's completely a one-day communication. And that's the format that we're agreed with. Having said that, there is a huge amount of stuff that the power of PowerPoint really is immense. It's about applying the basics that we talked about right in the beginning, and thinking what is it that we want to do. So beginning with the end in mind, and then using the tools. So understanding the audience. And then, of course, the tools like we talked about, multiple tools. That's a wrap from my end. And I will, if there are any questions, please you could share your questions on the chat and we'll be happy to take them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, Mehak has launched the fourth poll. Great, thank you, Mehak, for doing that. Okay, great. So all those who have responded to it, thank you, because that shows that you're wide awake, that it's great that you're aware of white space and the negative space. Negative is not always bad. So thank you for confirming that. Okay, flowchart. Rakesh, that is beyond the scope of this particular workshop. So we'll be happy to take this on the advanced session. This is a basic one. There's a question that's come in from Rakesh. We'll be happy to do a advanced session for this, for a flowchart. All right, so we'll wait for another 2 minutes, or otherwise we will conclude the session. Right. So thank you so much, everybody who's logged in for this on Sunday. And I look forward to hearing from you. Please feel free to reach out to Mitti Ki Rank or me on LinkedIn. I'm there as Nalini Kaushal. Thank you so much for your time and good luck creating effective presentations.